Good morning, grade 4A, and welcome back to another mathematics lesson with teacher AREISA. Today, we'll be looking at addition of fractions with unlike denominators. But before we go into today's lesson, who can remember what we did in our last lesson? Yes, we did adding fractions with like denominators. And what do you remember about adding fractions with like denominators? We had to follow a few steps. So let's list those steps. Step 1, what did we do? Rewrite our denominator. Step 2, add the numerators. And step 3, reduce our answer to its lowest term. Well, as I said, we'll be looking at addition of fractions with unlike denominators. And just like adding fractions with like denominators, there's a few steps that you must follow when adding fractions with unlike denominators. So step 1, read with me, it says that when the denominators are different, rewrite the fraction so that both have the same denominator. Step 2, rewrite each fraction as an equivalent fraction containing the common denominator by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same value. Step 3, it says in this step, the fractions are now the same and can be added by keeping the denominators as the same and adding the numerators. So I have an example here. I have one example that I'm going to do, so you have to pay keen attention. I'm going to leave the steps on the screen so that you can follow, all right? So the example is a half plus 1/5. A half plus 1/5. A half plus 1/5. So what does the first step says? Remember, it said that we must rewrite the fraction so that both numbers, the denominators, are the same. And the first thing we must do is list the multiples of 2 and 5. So we're going to list the multiples. Now, when you think about multiples, think about numbers these numbers can be divided by without leaving any remainder. I'm going to give you an example. We have 2. 2 can be divided into 2 one time without leaving any remainder. Another number is 4. How many times can 2 be divided into 4? Use your counters. If you have, or your strokes, if you have 4 strokes, how many groups of 2 can we get from these 4 strokes? 1, 2, right? Or you can circle it, 1, 2. So we can have 2 groups from these 4 strokes. So 2 can be divided into 4 2 times. So what other number do you know 2 can be divided into without leaving any remainder? 6, what else? 8 and 10. And we can go on and on. So what numbers can be divided into 5 without leaving any remainder? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and we can go on and on, okay? So now that we have listed the multiples of both numbers 2 and 5, we're now going to move on to the second step where we have to find our least common multiple. Now when I say common multiple, I'm saying the same. So what number do you see in 2 that you also see in 5? 10. So 10 is our least common multiple. So we're going to go at the bottom here, we're going to draw a line and we're going to write our least common multiple, which is 10. Now moving on, remember we have to make the fractions the same before we can add, right? The denominators must be the same. So now we're going to move on to step 3. We're going to make the fractions the same, right? We're now going to divide. How many times can 2 go into 10? Use your counters. How many times can 2 go into 10? How many groups of 2s can you get from 10 counters? Use your counters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to put that 5 there. Plus, how many times can 5 go into 10? Use your counters, come on, or use your strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Use your strokes. How many groups of 5 can we have from these 10 strokes? Count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's one group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's another group. So how many groups of 5 did we get from 10? 2. And we're going to put our 2 here. And remember, what we said when we're adding fractions with like denominators, what do? We keep the same denominator and we add the numerators. So we go ahead, we write back our denominator and we add our numerators. So 5 plus 2 is equal to, use your counters, 5 plus 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 over 10, right? So what's our answer? 7 over 10. Now when I have it like this is the same as 5 over 10 plus 2 over 10. You understand? So you don't have, you can write it this way. 5 over 10 plus 2 over 10. It's not mathematically wrong, it's correct. You can write it like this way or you can write it this way. Either way is correct because you're going to have the same answer. 5 plus 2 equals to 7 and we rewrite our denominator. It's the same thing. So you think you got that? Okay, so we're going to go into our activity. Nothing hard. We're going to go into our activity. So I have group activities here. So group 1, this is your task. You have how many questions? You have 2 questions to answer. Group 2, you also have 2 questions to answer. And group 3, you have 1 question to answer, 1 sum, right? So group 1, go ahead and copy your task. The first question says that half of the cars in a car park are red. A quarter of the cars or 1/4 of the cars in the car park are blue. What fraction of the cars in the car park are red and blue? Right, so that's your task. Group 2, you're going to add 2/3 plus 1/6. And the second sum is a half plus 2/5. And group 3, you're going to add 1/3 plus a half. So go ahead and do that quickly. So you're finished? Okay, so we're going to go into group 1. Let's see what group 1 did. So group 1 have 2/4 as their answer. So remember, they had to add a half plus how much? 1/4 or a quarter. So group 1, what was the first thing you did? You rewrite the fraction so that the denominators can be the same. And how did you do that? You first list the common multiples of 2 and 4. List the multiples for me. 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. And the multiples of 4, 2, 4, 8, 12. Very good. And what else did you do? You found the lowest common multiple, which is 8. Okay, so Sasha is saying 8, but somebody else is saying 2. So which one do we look at? We're looking at the least, so it's 2. Very good. And see, we also have 4 as a multiple, but we're looking for the least common multiple, which is 2. So we went on to draw our line and you put your 2. Very good. And then you went on to say 2 into 2 is 1. And 4, how many times 2 can go into 4? 2. Very good. So we had 2 plus 1 equals to 3 over 2. That's your answer. Y'all got 3 over 2. But group 1 is saying they got 2 over 4. So what went wrong? What did you do? Come on, look at it. What did you do? Tell me. You used, what did you use as your lowest common multiple? You use, let's see, 8, right? How many times can 2 go into 8? 4 plus 4 into 8, 2. 4 plus 2, 6 over 8. Now it's very smart of you to try other ways, but remember we're looking for the least common multiple. So since it's not 2, you use 8, you use 2, and now you have 4. So let's see how you got your answer, because it's like you're a bit mixed up. How many times can 2 go into 4? 2. And how many times can 4 go into 4? 1. So 2 plus 1 is equals to 3 over 4. So group 1, you have 2 over 4, but the answer is 3 over 4. So this was the correct one that you had to use. 2, because 2 is the lowest common multiple, right? So 2 into 2, 1, and 2 into 4, 2. So your answer would have been 3 over 2. So let's move into group 2's activity. Okay, that's group 2's activity. Very good, group 2. And group 3, very good. So group 1, you have a little correction there to make. You took the right steps into adding fractions with unlike denominators, but you skipped some things and you end up getting the wrong answer. So you can go ahead and make your necessary corrections. So quickly, let's go that over. We learned today about adding fractions with unlike denominators, and what are the steps that we followed? Step 1, we rewrite the fraction so that both have the same denominator. Step 2, rewrite each fraction as an equivalent fraction containing the common denominator. And step 3, in this step, since the fractions are the same, we then add by keeping the denominators and adding the numerators. So I hope you all have learned a lot in this lesson. That has brought us to the end of this lesson, and I will see you next class.